A Clackacraft drift boat puts you in touch with the river. Often copied but never eaten, Clackacraft has created the perfect casting platform. Designed by fly fishers for fly fishers, the Clackacraft tunnel hull gives the angler and the oarsman every advantage. Test drive the sports car of drift boats and fear no rock in a Clackacraft.
Hey Dean, how you doing?
Good, Marty.
Here we are at the boat ramp. Where would you like to get all this stuff loaded?
Why don't we put the non-essential stuff kind of towards the back where it's going to be out of our way. You guys are going to be seated up here in the front. We don't want to have any more gear. One of the things I like to try to do is get the boat organized and get it all ready to go before we get out here. And I think it's important that we do that before we start tying up the launch. One of the things that get guys, behind you upset at you is if you don't have your boat, ready to slide it in the water and get out of their way. So
yeah,
let's take a couple minutes and get it organized so we can do that. Yeah, with my rods, I like to have my tips pointed towards the back of the boat. Once we start downriver, of course, the bow is going to be pointed downstream, and if we come into an area where there's some low overhanging branches or something, it's nice to be able to have everything, swept to the back so we're not losing rods and getting things drug out of the boat. In my boat, I've got it set up so all of my safety gear is pretty readily available. We've already got our life jackets on, but I've got additional ones stored underneath the seat here. There's a throwable up there. I'll deal with anchors and pulling anchors and all that kind of stuff. If you see something that causes you some concern when we're headed downriver, don't hesitate to bring that up to me.
So we get all this stuff in here. Weight and balance and making the boat trim is pretty important, isn't it?
Very important, both for safety as well as comfort for the passengers and the guy rowing the boat.
Yeah.
If with a lot of the drift boats designed today, their front seats are on sliders so that you can move them from side to side. So if you have a guy up in front who's weighs more than the other, you can move guys around.
The great thing about this Clackacraft is that wide bottom.
Absolutely. It's very, very stable. Even if you do get a little bit of disparity in weight from side to side, you don't notice it quite as bad with this wide bottom Clackacraft. Absolutely.
So the major things we have to think about getting the boat ready, Dean, is to make sure all our gear is in it and ready. Yep. So when the boat slides off the trailer, we're pretty much ready to get it in the water and out of the way. Yep.
Climb in and go, exactly.
We've got the strap off.
Yes, tie-down strap has been removed.
A big thing is we've got to make sure to get our plugs in.
Plugs before you put the boat in the water, yeah.
And we're all wearing life jackets, so we're safe.
Correct. And push it down, make sure it's seated properly, and turn it until it's snug. It doesn't have to be real tight, but just snug enough that it's not going to pop back out. And then at the end of the day, if there's water that's in the boat that's accumulated and you want to go ahead and get that out of there before you trailer your boat, I usually just slide the boat on the trailer and leave it at an incline, and then just back your plug off a half a dozen turns or so, and then just lift the plug up out of the hole and drain the water out. I usually keep mine handy, either store it in one of the cup holders so I don't lose it, or put it underneath one of the seats.
So when we load all of our gear in the boat, Dean, and we're getting ready to go into the launch, we want to make sure that nothing is going to slide out of the boat as it tilts back on the trailer.
Cameras and expensive equipment like that, it's pretty critical to have that stuff placed in a real safe spot, either in one of the dry storages underneath the seat or someplace where it's not going to slide off. Over the years, I've had binoculars and cameras and things that have been set up on a deck, for example, or on a seat, and as that boat starts to come off the trailer, that stuff is going to take a ride, and you don't want an expensive camera hitting the bottom of the boat or falling out worse yet. So it just takes some practice and experience, and think ahead, put a little thought into putting these boats in the water. And if they don't have a lot of experience backing a trailer,
find tricky.
Yeah, find a big empty parking space, a big parking lot at a school or whatever, and practice backing your boat up.
Exactly.
One thing that's really frustrating to folks is having that boat launch tied up with a jackknife trailer or somebody who's really struggling trying to get the boat down. And some of these boat launches that we put in are pretty narrow. There's not a lot of room for error. You get off of the launch, you can get your vehicle stuck or damage your boat. I've seen tempers flare considerably at folks that have a hard time with that. So if it's not something you're comfortable doing, practice before you come out. This isn't the place to practice. This is the place to get it done and executed properly.
Yep.
You don't need it at this particular launch that we're using today. The boat's, you know, pretty high and dry, as is the trailer. But in launches where your back of your trailer is going to get down into the water, your lights are going to get submerged, or put the potential of that, it's not a bad idea to just take an extra second to unplug your trailer lights before you actually get down into the water.
You bet,
Don't need to do that today.
Yeah, in fact, on most of the concrete launches, you don't even have to get your wheels wet.
Absolutely.
You can slide the boat off and it slides right, because the bottoms are so slippery, they slide right into the water.
Right over the top. How I launch my boat, Marty, is I'll take my safety chain off as soon as I get ready to go, and I'll just disconnect this dog from my winch so that it'll free spool, and then I just start pushing and just continue to push the boat back until I get to this point where it's just starting to teeter on that roller in the back, and then with this one hand I'll get it going, and then I just back the boat off the trailer with the winch. And if I'm on a real steep ramp, I don't have to worry about a bow line or anything else. A lot of what I do, I have to do by myself. With my guiding, I can't depend on my clients knowing what to do.
One real important thing people have to know is that's the most dangerous item in this whole setup.
It can smack your hand or break a wrist.
It can break your hand if it gets away from you. You know what I do, Dean, is I'll slowly inch my boat back, and I'll keep locking that dog so that it won't free spool until the gravity is pulling the boat back. Then I unlock it and then just slowly back it down the same way you did.
Absolutely. So once I get the boat off of the trailer, I'll unhook my strap, attach it to the back of the trailer. I'll make sure my boat's in a position where it's not going to get away from me, and I'll just walk the boat out, find a safe place to slide it up on the bank so it isn't going to go anywhere, because I still have a few things yet that we need to do to get ready before we actually get out in the water. I've got oars that need to be placed properly in the locks. I've got an anchor that's inside the boat now that needs to be hung off the back of the transom, and then we'll get you guys in the boat and get ready to go.
There are a couple of additional launching situations you might face, and both will make you happy you have a Clackacraft. The first is a bank launch, where you can't get your boat in the water, but have to slide it to wherever you're putting in. In an aluminum boat, you wouldn't even attempt it at a spot like this because it would be just too much work.
Start her if you can. I got her. Okay, get her going. Push her. She's stuck.
Slides are another common launch situation, and they also are much easier with the Clackacraft because the bottoms are so slick. If you're in an aluminum boat, the task can be difficult. Marty demonstrates on this slide how easy it is to lower the drift boat to the river.
The biggest thing you have to do is hold the boat back so it doesn't get away from you. If we didn't have this boat roped up and we pushed it down, it would go clear across the river. So you want to try to get it started real easy. Have your rope tight. Nudge the boat a little bit so it'll start going. Then hold on to it. Just let a little slack line off. You can just kind of stop it with a real light hand pressure, but there's no struggling and pushing the boat.
You might ask Marty, if you see him at a sportsman show in your area, how far a boat will go at this particular put-in if you don't tie a good knot.